There is one voice that has been with you since the day you were born. It speaks before every decision, after every failure, during every success, and in every moment of silence. Most people spend their entire lives trying to change the world around them, while completely ignoring the conversation happening within them. They search for confidence in achievements, peace in possessions, and happiness in the approval of others. Yet the greatest battle has never been outside, it has always been within. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of your inner dialogue. If your mind constantly reminds you of your weaknesses, your body will follow with hesitation. If your thoughts repeatedly tell you that you are not enough, your actions will quietly begin to prove that belief true. But what if you could interrupt that cycle? What if for just 3 days you deliberately changed the way you spoke to yourself, not with empty affirmations or unrealistic promises, but with awareness, discipline, and truth? A Shaolin practitioner understands that every transformation begins long before the body moves. It begins in the mind. Every word you repeat becomes a seed. Every thought you entertain becomes a habit. Every habit eventually becomes your character. If you wish to become stronger, calmer, and more resilient, then you must first become the kind of person whose inner voice creates strength instead of fear. For the next few moments, allow yourself to observe your own mind without judgment. Listen carefully to the words you have been repeating every day. Then discover how changing that conversation for only 3 days can begin a transformation that lasts a lifetime. The first discipline is to become aware of the language you use when speaking to yourself. Most people never notice this conversation because it has become automatic. It runs quietly in the background like a program that has been operating for years. Every mistake is followed by criticism. Every challenge is met with doubt. Every setback becomes proof that they are not capable enough. They believe these thoughts are simply facts, when in reality they are habits. Habits can be changed, but only when they are first observed. Imagine someone following you every moment of your life, repeating every sentence you say to yourself. Would you feel encouraged by that person? Or would you slowly lose confidence because of their constant criticism? Clears throat surprisingly. Many people treat themselves in ways they would never treat another human being. They forgive strangers more quickly than they forgive themselves. They offer compassion to others while denying it to their own minds. This does not mean you should lie to yourself. It does not mean pretending every decision is perfect or every failure is a success. Real strength is built on honesty, not illusion. Honest self-respect means looking directly at your weaknesses without allowing them to define your identity. You can acknowledge a mistake without becoming the mistake. You can recognize an area that needs improvement without believing you are unworthy. For 3 days, practice changing one simple habit. Every time your mind says, "I cannot do this," pause immediately. Replace it with a statement that is both truthful and empowering. Say, "I am learning." Instead of saying, "I always fail," remind yourself, "I have failed before, and I have also learned before." These are not motivational slogans. They are balanced observations. They keep your mind connected to reality instead of fear. Your brain listens carefully, clears throat to repetition. Whatever you repeat becomes familiar. Whatever becomes familiar begins to feel true. This is why negative self-talk is so dangerous. It slowly reshapes your identity. If you repeatedly tell yourself that you are weak, eventually you stop questioning that belief. Your actions begin to reflect it. Opportunities are avoided. Risks are ignored. growth becomes uncomfortable because your identity has already accepted limitation. Now imagine reversing that process for 3 days every morning before checking your phone, before speaking to anyone else. Sit quietly for a few moments, take a slow breath and say, "Today, I choose patience over panic. I choose awareness over reaction. I choose progress over perfection." These words are not magic. Their power comes from directing your attention toward the qualities you wish to strengthen throughout the day. Your mind will naturally return to old habits. This is expected. Years of conditioning cannot disappear in an instant. The goal is not perfection. The goal is awareness. Each time you notice yourself speaking harshly inside your mind, gently interrupt the pattern. Do not criticize yourself for having negative thoughts. Simply replace them with a healthier direction. Think of a gardener removing weeds. The gardener does not become angry every time another weed appears. Instead, the gardener patiently removes it and continues caring for the soil. Your mind is no different. Negative thoughts are not evidence that something is wrong with you. They are simply reminders that your mental garden requires consistent attention. Many people wait until they feel confident before they begin changing their lives. Yet, confidence is rarely the starting point. Confidence is often the result of repeatedly keeping small promises to yourself. Every time you speak with kindness instead of cruelty, you strengthen trust within yourself. Every time you refuse to believe your worst thoughts, you weaken their influence. Every time you respond with patience instead of judgment, you create emotional stability. Observe how your body reacts to different words. When you silently repeat, "I am hopeless," your shoulders become heavier. Your breathing becomes shallow, your energy decreases, but when you calmly say, "This is difficult, but I can continue," your posture changes. Your breath becomes steadier, your nervous system begins responding differently because your internal environment has changed. The greatest warriors are not those who never experience fear. They are those who refuse to let fear become the narrator of their lives. Likewise, the strongest minds are not free from negative thoughts. They simply refuse to obey every thought that appears. They understand that awareness creates freedom. A thought may enter the mind, but it does not deserve permanent residence. During these 3 days, notice how often you seek validation from others. Ask yourself whether you are speaking to yourself with the same respect you hope to receive from the world. If your inner voice is constantly hostile, external praise will never feel enough. But when your relationship with yourself becomes peaceful, approval from others becomes less necessary because your worth is no longer borrowed from outside opinions. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to practice this discipline. Waiting in traffic becomes a chance to choose patience instead of frustration. Making a mistake becomes a chance to choose learning instead of shame. Facing uncertainty becomes a chance to choose courage instead of imagination-driven fear. Ordinary moments become training sessions for extraordinary inner strength. The clears throat purpose of changing yourself, Talk, is not to become someone different overnight. The purpose is to stop standing in the way of the person you are already capable of becoming. Every compassionate sentence weakens old conditioning. Every honest word of encouragement builds resilience. Every conscious thought creates a new direction for your mind. Little by little, the voice that once limited you begins to guide you with wisdom, patience, and unwavering self-respect. If someone you truly loved came to you feeling broken, discouraged, or afraid, would your first response be to criticize them? Would you remind them of every mistake they have ever made? Would you tell them they are incapable, weak, or destined to fail? Of course not. You would speak with patience. You would encourage them without denying reality. You would remind them of their strength, their potential, and their ability to rise again. Clear as throat, yet many people reserve this kindness for everyone except themselves. The relationship you have with yourself is the longest relationship you will ever experience. Every day, your mind is listening to the words you repeat. If those words are filled with judgment, shame, and constant criticism, your spirit becomes exhausted before the day has even begun. But when you begin speaking to yourself with the same wisdom, honesty, and compassion you would offer someone you deeply care about, your inner world slowly becomes a place of strength instead of conflict. Speaking kindly to yourself does not mean making excuses or avoiding responsibility. It means becoming a wise teacher rather than a harsh judge. A good teacher corrects mistakes without destroying confidence. They point out what needs improvement while reminding the student that growth is possible. They understand that fear may force temporary obedience, but encouragement builds lasting discipline. Imagine a child learning to walk. Every time they fall, they stand up again because the people around them encourage them. No loving parent expects perfection on the first attempt. Snorts, they understand that falling is part of learning. Now ask yourself this: why do adults expect perfection from themselves? Why do we believe one failure defines our entire future? Somewhere along the journey, many people replaced curiosity with judgment. They stopped seeing mistakes as lessons and started seeing them as evidence that they were not enough. Snorts, for the next 3 days, become aware of the advice you give yourself. Whenever something goes wrong, pause before reacting. Ask yourself one simple question: if someone I truly loved were standing in my place right now, what would I say to them? Then offer those same words to yourself. You may discover that the guidance you naturally give others is exactly what your own heart has been waiting to hear. When you miss a goal, do not say, "I am a failure." Instead, remind yourself, "This attempt did not succeed, but I can learn from it." When fear tells you not to begin, answer with calm confidence. You do not have to be perfect to take the first step. When your mind compares your journey to someone else's, gently redirect your attention by saying, "Their path is not my path. My responsibility is to become better than I was yesterday." This shift may seem small, but it changes everything. Your mind begins to associate challenges with growth rather than danger. Your nervous system becomes calmer because it no longer expects punishment every time you make a mistake. You stop wasting energy fighting yourself and begin using that energy to improve yourself. Many people believe that being hard on themselves creates success. They think constant self-criticism will make them stronger. In reality, endless criticism often creates hesitation, anxiety, and self-doubt. A person who is constantly attacked by their own thoughts becomes afraid to take risks because every mistake feels like proof of their unworthiness. But a person who treats themselves with respectful honesty develops resilience. They understand that failure is information, not identity. Think about the people who have positively influenced your life. Chances are they did not inspire you by humiliating you. They inspired you because they believed in your ability to grow. They challenged you while also reminding you of your potential. Become that voice for yourself. Let your inner dialogue become a source of direction instead of destruction. This practice also teaches humility. Speaking kindly to yourself is not about believing you are superior to others. It is about recognizing that every human being is imperfect and learning. Just as you would allow a loved one the space to grow, allow yourself that same space. Growth is not a straight line. There will be days of progress and days of setbacks. Both belong to the journey. Throughout these 3 days, create small moments of intentional self-conversation. In the morning, remind yourself, today I will respond with patience instead of panic. Before beginning a difficult task, say, I may not know everything, but I am capable of learning. At the end of the day, instead of focusing only on what went wrong, ask yourself, what did I do well today? What lesson can I carry into tomorrow? These simple questions train your mind to seek wisdom instead of self-condemnation. Over time, this way of speaking becomes natural. Your inner voice becomes calmer, wiser, and more supportive. You no longer depend entirely on praise from others because you have learned to guide yourself with integrity. You become someone who can face difficulty without collapsing under the weight of your own thoughts. The greatest transformation does not happen when the world finally believes in you. It begins when you become the kind of person who can stand alone in silence and still speak to yourself with respect, patience, truth, and unwavering compassion. Most people believe their greatest enemy is outside of them. Difficult people, painful circumstances, or unexpected failures. But in many cases, the real battle begins much earlier. It begins with a single unchecked thought. One negative idea enters the mind, and instead of observing it, we accept it as truth. That thought becomes a belief. The belief shapes our actions, and eventually our actions create a reality that appears to confirm the original thought. The mind is powerful, but it is also impressionable. It learns through repetition. If you repeatedly tell yourself that you are incapable, your mind begins searching for evidence to support that belief. You notice every mistake while ignoring every success. You become hesitant to take opportunities because your identity has already decided the outcome. This is how negative thought patterns quietly become self-fulfilling prophecies. A Shaolin practitioner understands that not every thought deserves attention. Thoughts appear just as clouds move across the sky. Some bring wisdom, while others are nothing more than old fears, habits, or emotional reactions. Your freedom begins the moment you realize that you are the observer of your thoughts, not their servant. For the next 3 days, practice catching negative thoughts the moment they appear. Do not fight them or become frustrated by them. Simply pause and ask yourself, is this thought helping me become the person I want to be? If the answer is no, choose not to feed it. Replace it with a thought rooted in truth, patience, and possibility. Clears throat. Every interruption weakens the old pattern. Every conscious choice strengthens a new one over time. Your mind stops automatically following fear and begins naturally returning to clarity. Clears throat instead of reacting to every negative thought. You learn to observe it, release it, and redirect your attention toward what is within your control. The strongest mind is not the one that never experiences negativity. It is the one that refuses to let negativity decide its future. By interrupting destructive thought patterns before they take root, you create space for discipline, resilience, and inner peace to grow. Discipline is often misunderstood as forcing yourself to work harder, wake up earlier, or push through discomfort. While these actions are important, they are only the visible expression of something much deeper. True discipline begins long before your body takes action. It begins with the conversation you have with yourself. Every choice you make is influenced by the words you repeat in your mind. If your inner voice constantly negotiates with discomfort, makes excuses, or seeks the easiest path, your actions will follow. But when your self-talk becomes intentional, disciplined action becomes a natural result rather than a constant struggle. Most people wait until they feel motivated before they begin. They tell themselves, "I'll start tomorrow," "I'm not in the right mood," or "I need more confidence first." These thoughts seem harmless, but repeated often enough, they become habits. The mind learns that every difficult task can be delayed. Every challenge becomes optional. Over time, the gap between what you want and what you actually do grows wider. Not because you lack ability, but because your inner dialogue has trained you to seek comfort over growth. A Shaolin monk understands that the mind must be trained with the same consistency as the body. Discipline is not built in dramatic moments. It is built through ordinary decisions repeated every day. The words you speak to yourself each morning become the foundation for those decisions. If you begin the day with complaints, resistance, or self-doubt, you carry that energy into every situation. But if you begin with calm intention, reminding yourself that your responsibility is to act regardless of emotion, you strengthen the part of your mind that values commitment over convenience. For the next 3 days, make your self-talk deliberate before you reach for your phone. Before the noise of the world enters your mind, spend a few quiet moments speaking with purpose. Tell yourself, "Today I will do what needs to be done, even if I do not feel like doing it." Remind yourself, discomfort is temporary, but discipline creates freedom. These are not empty affirmations, they are commitments. They prepare your mind to respond with action instead of excuses. Throughout the day, notice the moments when your mind begins bargaining. It may say, "Skip today's practice," "Rest a little longer," or "One missed opportunity won't matter." Rather than arguing with these thoughts, acknowledge them and return to your commitment. Calmly answer, "I choose discipline because my future depends on today's actions." Every time you respond this way, you weaken the habit of procrastination and strengthen the habit of consistency. Discipline also means speaking to yourself with honesty. If you fail to keep a promise, do not hide from it, but do not attack yourself either. Simply recognize what happened, learn from it, and begin again immediately. Harsh clears-throat criticism rarely produces lasting discipline. It usually creates guilt, and guilt often leads to avoidance. Honest accountability, however, builds trust. You begin believing your own words because your actions repeatedly support them. As this practice continues, your inner voice changes. It becomes less emotional and more dependable. Instead of asking, "Do I feel like it?" you begin asking, "Is this aligned with the person I am becoming?" That single shift transforms the way you approach work, relationships, health, and personal growth. You no longer depend on motivation to move forward because your self-talk has become a steady guide reminding you that discipline is an act of self-respect practiced one decision at a time. Your greatest ally or your greatest obstacle is not the people around you. It is the mind you carry with you every moment of every day. No matter where you go, your thoughts follow. If your mind constantly works against you with doubt, fear, and criticism, even the best opportunities will feel overwhelming. But if your mind supports you with clarity, patience, and discipline, even life's greatest challenges become manageable. The goal is not to control every thought. The goal is to create an inner environment where your mind becomes your partner, instead clears throat of your opponent. Many people live as if they are in a constant argument with themselves. One part of the mind wants growth, while another part insists on staying comfortable. One voice dreams of becoming stronger, while another whispers that it is too late or too difficult. This internal conflict drains more energy than any physical task ever could. Before you can master your circumstances, you must first bring harmony to your own mind. A Shaolin practitioner understands that peace is not found by escaping challenges, but by training the mind to remain steady in the middle of them. Every day presents opportunities to strengthen this relationship. When something unexpected happens, your first thought may be fear. Instead of allowing that fear to take control, pause and breathe. Remind yourself, I do not need to react immediately. I can choose my response. In that small moment of awareness, you reclaim your power. Your mind becomes supportive when you consistently feed it the right habits. Fill it with gratitude instead of constant comparison. Fill it with purpose instead of endless distraction. Fill it with disciplined action instead of empty wishes. Just as the body reflects what it is repeatedly fed, the mind reflects the thoughts, conversations, and habits you consume every day. Protect your attention carefully, because whatever enters your mind repeatedly will eventually shape your character. For the next 3 days, practice becoming your own source of encouragement. Celebrate small victories instead of waiting for perfect results. When you complete a task you have been avoiding, acknowledge it. When you remain calm in a difficult situation, recognize that progress. These moments may seem insignificant, but they teach your mind an important lesson. Growth is happening. Confidence is not built by pretending to be perfect. It is built by noticing evidence that you are becoming stronger through consistent effort. It is equally important to let go of unnecessary battles inside your head. You cannot change yesterday, and worrying endlessly about tomorrow steals your ability to act today. Whenever your thoughts drift toward regret or anxiety, gently bring your attention back to the present moment. Ask yourself, what is one useful action I can take right now? This question shifts your focus from helplessness to responsibility, from overthinking to purposeful movement. Remember that your mind is always listening to the story you tell about your life. If you constantly describe yourself as unlucky, weak, or incapable, your actions will begin to match that story. But if you choose a story rooted in resilience, learning, and quiet determination, your behavior gradually aligns with that identity. You stop waiting for confidence to appear because you understand that confidence is created through repeated acts of courage, no matter how small. Building a supportive mind does not happen in one day, nor does it require extraordinary talent. It requires consistent awareness. It requires choosing thoughts that strengthen rather than weaken you, words that guide rather than condemn you, and actions that reflect the person you are becoming. With every conscious choice, the conflict inside begins to fade. The voice that once filled your mind with fear slowly becomes a calm guide, reminding you that your greatest strength has never been outside of you. It has always been waiting to be awakened from within, in a world filled with endless noise, opinions, and distractions. Many people have forgotten how to listen to themselves. They constantly seek answers from social media, friends, or strangers, yet rarely spend a few quiet moments observing their own mind. Silence is not emptiness, it is the space where clarity begins. When you stop reacting to every external voice, you finally hear the one that truly matters, your own conscious awareness. A Shaolin practitioner understands that silence is a form of training. It reveals the thoughts you usually avoid, the emotions you often suppress, and the habits that quietly control your life. At first, sitting in silence may feel uncomfortable because the mind is accustomed to constant stimulation. But discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that you are meeting yourself without distraction. For the next 3 days, give yourself 10 minutes of complete silence. No phone, no music, no conversation. Simply sit, breathe and observe. Do not chase your thoughts and do not fight them. Let them come and go like clouds passing through the sky. As you become the observer rather than the participant, you begin to realize that your thoughts do not define you. They are temporary visitors, not permanent truths. During these moments of stillness, ask yourself simple but honest questions. What am I repeatedly telling myself? Are these words helping me grow, or are they keeping me trapped? Who would I become if I stopped believing every negative thought? The answers may not appear immediately, but with patience, your mind becomes quieter and wisdom begins to replace mental noise. Silence also teaches emotional discipline. Instead of reacting impulsively to every criticism, disappointment or inconvenience, you learn to pause before responding. In that pause you gain freedom. You are no longer controlled by anger, fear, or pride. You begin choosing responses based on awareness rather than emotion. This is where true strength is developed, not in loud victories but in quiet self-mastery. As this practice becomes part of your daily life, you notice a profound change. Your decisions become clearer because they are no longer driven by panic. Your confidence becomes steadier because it is rooted in self-understanding instead of external approval. You stop searching for peace in the world around you because you have learned to cultivate it within yourself. In silence, you discover that the strongest voice is not the loudest one. It is the calm, disciplined voice that guides you toward truth, patience, and lasting inner peace. Who you become is rarely decided by one extraordinary moment. Most people imagine that transformation arrives through a dramatic breakthrough, a life-changing opportunity, clears throat a perfect mentor, or a single burst of motivation. But a Shaolin practitioner understands a different truth. Your character is not built in moments of excitement. It is built in moments of repetition. The thoughts you repeat, the words you speak, the habits you practice, and the choices you make every ordinary day quietly shape the person you become. Every morning before you have spoken a single word to another person, your identity is already being influenced. The first thoughts that enter your mind begin directing your attention. If those thoughts are filled with resistance, fear, or self-doubt, you will unconsciously carry that energy into the rest of your day. You may not notice it immediately, but it will appear in your posture, your decisions, your willingness to take risks, and your ability to remain calm under pressure. This is why the first conversation you have every day should not be with your phone, your emails, or the opinions of the world. It should be with your own mind. Most people underestimate the power of repetition because the results are invisible at first. They expect immediate change, and when they do not see it, they return to old habits. Imagine planting a bamboo seed. For a long time, nothing appears above the surface. Day after day, it seems as though your effort is producing no reward. Yet beneath the soil, the roots are spreading, becoming strong enough to support future growth. One day, the bamboo rises rapidly, but its strength was never created in that moment. It was created during the unseen days of patient development. Your mind grows in the same way. Every disciplined thought you repeat is strengthening roots that will eventually support a stronger identity. The danger is that repetition works whether you use it consciously or unconsciously. If every day you repeat, I am always behind, I never succeed, nothing ever changes, your mind accepts those statements as instructions. Your brain begins filtering reality through those beliefs. You overlook progress because you are searching for failure. You ignore opportunities because you have already convinced yourself they will not work. Gradually, your clear-as-throat life begins reflecting the story you have been telling yourself. Many people think they are trapped by their circumstances, but often they are trapped by their identity. A person who identifies as lazy will find reasons to avoid action. A person who identifies as unlucky will see obstacles where others see possibilities. A person who believes they are incapable will hesitate even when they possess the necessary skills. Before changing your behavior, you must become aware of the identity producing that behavior. This does not mean creating a false image of yourself. It is not about pretending to be fearless when you are afraid or pretending to be confident when uncertainty exists. True transformation begins with honest observation. Notice the labels you have attached to yourself over the years. Perhaps someone once told you that you were not intelligent enough, disciplined enough, or talented enough. Perhaps you repeated those words so often that they no longer sound like someone else's opinion. They sound like your own voice. The first step is recognizing that these labels are learned, not permanent. For the next 3 days, pay close attention to every sentence that begins with the words I am. Clear as throat, these 2 words carry tremendous power because whatever follows them slowly becomes part of your identity. If you repeatedly say, I am impatient, your mind looks for evidence to confirm it. If you constantly say, I am weak under pressure, you reinforce that expectation every time life becomes difficult. Instead, choose statements that encourage growth without denying reality. Say, I am becoming more patient. Say, I am learning to remain calm. Say, I am building discipline one day at a time. These statements are truthful because they focus on the direction of your growth rather than the limitations of your past. Identity is also shaped by the promises you keep to yourself. Every time you decide to wake up when you said you would, every time you complete a task you wanted to avoid, every time you remain calm instead of reacting impulsively, you send your mind a powerful message. You are telling yourself, I am someone who follows through. Confidence grows naturally because your actions repeatedly confirm your words. This kind of confidence is far stronger than the confidence created by praise from others because it is built upon evidence rather than opinion. Notice how people often wait for life to become easier before they decide to change. They believe they will become disciplined once stress disappears. Patient once people stop being difficult or peaceful once every problem has been solved. But this way of thinking postpones growth indefinitely. The person you wish to become is not created after your challenges disappear. That person is created through the way you respond to those challenges today. Every difficult moment offers an opportunity to reinforce a new identity. When you choose patience instead of anger, you are becoming a patient person. When you choose honesty instead of excuses, you are becoming an honest person. When you choose perseverance instead of quitting, you are becoming resilient. Identity is not something you announce to the world. It is something you quietly prove to yourself through repeated actions. Be careful about the environments you repeatedly place yourself in. The people you spend time with, the content you consume, and the conversations you engage in all influence the identity you are creating. If you surround yourself with constant negativity, complaint, and distraction, your mind gradually adopts the same patterns. If you intentionally expose yourself to wisdom, discipline, gratitude, and purposeful living, those qualities begin shaping your character. Your environment cannot determine your destiny, but it can either strengthen or weaken the habits that build it. Gratitude is another powerful form of repetition. Every day, your mind is deciding what deserves your attention. If you constantly focus on what is missing, you train yourself to live with dissatisfaction. If you consistently notice what is already present, the lessons, the opportunities, the people who support you, the simple gift of another day, you strengthen a mindset of abundance rather than scarcity. Gratitude does not ignore hardship. It prevents hardship from becoming your only perspective. Remember that identity is always under construction. You are not condemned to remain the person you were yesterday. Every sunrise gives you another opportunity to repeat thoughts that strengthen rather than weaken you, to choose actions that align with your values, and to become someone your future self will be grateful for. Progress may seem slow, but slow progress is still progress. A mountain is climbed one step at a time, not one leap at a time. As you continue this practice, you will notice subtle clears throat, but meaningful changes. Your reactions become calmer because you have repeated patience. Your confidence becomes steadier because you have repeated disciplined action. Your self-respect deepens because you have repeatedly honored your commitments. The transformation will not happen because you wished for it. It will happen because you consistently became the kind of person who practices the same small truths every day. In the end, your destiny is not shaped by what you occasionally believe about yourself. It is shaped by what you repeatedly think, repeatedly say, and repeatedly do. Every repetition is a vote for the person you are becoming. Choose those votes with awareness. Let every day become another opportunity to strengthen your character, refine your discipline, and build an identity rooted not in fear, comparison, or clears throat temporary emotion, but in wisdom, consistency, humility, and unwavering inner strength. One of the greatest illusions the mind creates is the belief that you must feel ready before clears throat you begin. People tell themselves they will start exercising when they feel motivated, begin learning when they feel confident, forgive when they feel peaceful, or pursue their dreams when fear finally disappears. They spend months, sometimes years, waiting for the perfect emotional state. But that moment rarely arrives. A Shaolin practitioner understands that readiness is not something you discover. It is something you create through action. The mind naturally seeks certainty because certainty feels safe. It wants guarantees before taking risks. It asks, what if I fail? What if people judge me? What if I am not good enough? These questions seem reasonable, but when repeated often enough, they become invisible chains. They keep you standing at the starting line, while life continues moving forward. The tragedy is not that people fail. The tragedy is that many never begin because they confuse fear with a sign to stop. Think back to every skill you have ever learned. There was a time when you could not read, write, ride a bicycle, or perform countless tasks that now feel effortless. You did not master those abilities because you felt prepared. You mastered them because you were willing to be a beginner. Every expert was once inexperienced. Every confident person once felt uncertain. Every disciplined individual once struggled with inconsistency. The difference was never the absence of fear. The difference was the decision to continue despite it. A Shaolin student does not train only on the days when training feels enjoyable. Discipline is measured by what you do when comfort invites you to stop. The purpose of training is not merely to strengthen the body. It is to teach the mind that action does not have to depend on emotion. Some mornings you will wake up energized. Other mornings you will feel tired, distracted, or discouraged. If your actions depend entirely on your feelings, your progress will always be unpredictable. But when your actions are guided by your values instead of your emotions, consistency becomes possible. Many people believe confidence comes first and action follows. In reality, action often comes first and confidence follows. Imagine standing at the edge of a cold river. You may spend an hour thinking about the temperature, imagining how uncomfortable it will be, and debating whether you should step in. None of that thinking changes the water. The moment of truth arrives only when your foot touches the surface. The same is true in life. Endless thinking cannot replace a single courageous action. For the next 3 days, challenge yourself to take one action before your mind has the opportunity to create excuses. If there is a difficult conversation you have been avoiding, begin it. If there is a project you keep postponing, work on it for just 15 minutes. If there is a healthy habit you want to build, start today instead of planning for tomorrow. The size of the action matters less than the fact that you take it. Every small step weakens the belief that you need perfect conditions before moving forward. Observe what happens after you begin. The task that seemed overwhelming often becomes manageable. The fear that appeared enormous begins to shrink. This is because the mind exaggerates uncertainty from a distance. Once you enter the experience, reality usually proves less frightening than imagination. The mountain that looked impossible from afar becomes climbable one step at a time. Your greatest obstacle is often not the challenge itself, but the story you tell yourself about the challenge. If you repeatedly say, "This is impossible," your body responds with hesitation. If you calmly remind yourself, "This will be difficult, but I can take the next step," your mind shifts from avoidance to engagement. You stop focusing on the entire journey and begin focusing on the only step you truly control, the one in front of you. There will be moments when you stumble. Do not interpret those moments as evidence that you should quit. Falling is part of learning. A tree does not become strong because it grows in perfect weather. It becomes strong because it survives wind, rain, and changing seasons. In the same way, your character is strengthened not by avoiding difficulty, but by meeting it with patience and persistence. Perfectionism is another form of fear disguised as high standards. Many people refuse to start because they want their first attempt to be flawless. They forget that mastery is built through imperfect repetitions. Every mistake contains information. Every setback teaches something that success cannot. When you release the need to be perfect, you create space to become better. As you practice taking action without waiting to feel ready, something remarkable begins to happen. You start trusting yourself, not because every decision is perfect, but because you repeatedly prove that you are capable of moving forward even when uncertainty exists. Self-trust is one of the strongest forms of confidence. It is the quiet certainty that regardless of what happens, you will adapt, learn, and continue. Another important lesson is that courage grows through use. Many people imagine courage as a personality trait that only a few possess. In reality, courage is like a muscle. Every time you act despite fear, it becomes stronger. Every time you avoid discomfort, it becomes weaker. You do not become fearless by thinking about bravery. You become fearless by practicing bravery in ordinary moments, speaking honestly, keeping your promises, remaining calm under pressure, and continuing after disappointment. Notice how often life rewards movement rather than hesitation. Opportunities appear while you are already walking, not while you are endlessly waiting. Clarity comes through experience, not endless analysis. The path ahead becomes visible only after you begin taking steps. If you insist on seeing the entire journey before moving, you may remain standing in the same place forever. For the next 3 days, replace one sentence in your inner dialogue. Instead of saying, "I'll do it when I'm ready," say, "I'll become ready by doing it." That single shift changes everything. It reminds you that growth is an active process, not a passive one. It places responsibility back into your hands. Your future is no longer determined by how confident you feel today, but by the choices you make despite uncertainty. In the end, the people who transform their lives are rarely the ones who possess extraordinary talent or perfect circumstances. They are the ones who stop negotiating with fear. They accept that discomfort is temporary, that failure is a teacher, and that progress belongs to those who are willing to begin before they feel completely prepared. The first step may be small, but it carries the power to change the direction of your entire life. Every journey toward wisdom, discipline, inner peace, and lasting strength begins the same way, with the simple decision to stop waiting and start walking.